Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking a little time to talk to some students of mine. And, Tom, you're a Ranken graduate from many years ago. And, I could try and introduce you, but I figured you could do a better job. So why don't we start with please introducing yourself?
All right, my name is Tom Barrett, and I am a Ranken grad from 2013. I have been, due to my education at Ranken, afforded the opportunity to go all around the country and work a few different jobs. And now I'm back here in St. Louis. I've got my own house, my family, and working a pretty steady job, which I really enjoy. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Congrats. So you said you graduated in 2013 and now you're back in St. Louis. How long did you travel?
So I got hired. I actually got contacted by a staffing firm from Virginia the week before I took my final certification test. And once I graduated, they held the ceremony on a Saturday, and I was packed up and moving to Virginia on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah, I was out there for a little bit, and then they sent me down to Texas to work a job for about 6 months. And then I moved to South Carolina, and I was there for 2 years, and then moved back to St. Louis and worked remote for 2 more years for that company. And now I'm working for Charter.
Nice.
So,
Nice,
yeah,
nice. And
bit
what's
of
your
a
uh,
trip.
what's your job title for Charter?
I'm a system administrator.
And you told me before we hit record that you were a developer for many years, and you've kind of, I guess, taken a step up the corporate ladder or aside. I don't know how you look at it, but you haven't written code in a couple years.
Yeah, so I moved into system administration after my last development job because that was contract work and I was looking for something a little more steady. And this job as a system admin came across my way. And I thought it sounded interesting, so I just jumped at it and interviewed. And this is what I'm doing now, and it's pretty fun. Um, the development that I've done in my position has been kind of for my own benefit. Like I've written some automations to help me out in my daily work, like with creating accounts so that I can run some tests. I've got a little automation that I run in UiPath, which is a .NET based automation platform,
Yeah.
and also work with a couple UiPath applications like Quote Intake Tool is one of them, and that operates on the Orchestrator platform, which is web-based, so that makes things a lot easier, especially when we need to do maintenance on our servers. We don't have to turn anything off. It just recovers itself. So,
You were mentioning that in your system admin job that you were. Would you explain what you were starting to explain before, which is you got 5 teams of developers and so forth. And so, I guess what I'm saying is, or my question, I want, would your experience as a developer as a background, would you be able to do your current job today without that?
I don't think so. So, what I was explaining before was the application that I was brought in on is called eBoss. And that's a combination of like 5 different applications and 5 different development teams that don't talk to each other before it comes to me. And then they all the applications have to play nice and work together to accomplish the eBoss job. And so my job was to test it out and make sure that the connections were all there and that the information was getting transmitted from one application to the other, and there was no loss and no confusion between the two. So my development background really assisted me with being able to kind of do some light troubleshooting without getting in there and looking at the code. Um, and I was able to kind of bridge the gap between my team and the other development teams
Yeah.
because I know how to talk to developers because I've been doing it for 6 or 7 years at that point. Uh, so I knew what to look for,
Nice.
and had I not been a developer, I don't think I would have had that leg up. So it made things a lot easier.
Nice, nice. So I see your background. Looks like you're working from home. How much work from home do you have nowadays?
So now we get 2 days a week that we can work from home, and we get to pick them ourselves. So mine are Thursdays and Fridays.
Okay.
at the height of the pandemic, we were working from home most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, we'd go into the office, like 2 people from each team would go into the office for about 2 weeks, and then it would be 2 months of work from home. So now we're back at full capacity with some flex time.
Nice.
Because that's kind of the work from home, I think, is the direction that the industry is headed.
Yeah.
Most people that I know are work from home, unless, I know a guy who works robotics for Bayer, and he has to go into the office because he's got to physically be with the robot.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So did you come to Ranken right out of high school? Were you a few years after that? How old were you?
So I was 21 when I went to Ranken, when I got started there, because I was pursuing an art degree, and got to a point where I was just looking at the industry and what I had to do to make any money, and it wasn't something that I was prepared to do.
Yeah.
So I talked to my dad, who he ran an HVAC shop. It's a family business, and he hired a lot of guys from Ranken, and he recommended the school very highly, and he took me in. I had a buddy who also went to Ranken, and he loved it. He was making, some pretty good money. He had a solid career at that time, and he still does. He recommended it, and that's how I ended up in your classroom.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Man, it almost 10 years ago. Well, I guess it would have been 10 years ago if you graduated in 13. Now, did you have me for the full 2 years, or did we have 2 instructors back then? I kind of forget.
I had you for the year and a half.
For a year and a half.
I had to do first semester in the general.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was funny too, because when it came to the web development portion of that,
yeah,
teacher didn't know much about it, because he was, I think, a Cisco guy. So he kind of just handed us some little worksheets, and he was like, I don't know. You have to ask this guy, and pointed to the other students.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Pretty funny. But we got a pretty good, he learned a lot, because I think that was pretty early on when we had that track. That was like a couple years into you doing the web development track.
Yeah, that was like you just get your feet wet, and then if you like it, you come study it.
Exactly.
And so the teacher who was teaching it didn't have his feet wet, is what I'm hearing, and so he kind of let you run with it, and you ran with it, and you found out that you liked it a little bit, and then you studied it the rest of the way.
Yeah, because it was it really appealed to, like I said, I was going for an art degree.
Yeah.
And web development, at least the stuff that we were doing back then, really appealed to the creative side of me, and
yeah,
the creativity kind of changed throughout my career.
Yeah.
But it was, it's just problem solving.
Yeah, right on. So what various languages have you used in the industry as a developer, and obviously not recently, but in the past?
So SQL is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
C#, .NET. I know it's not a language, it's a mode of coding, but MVC was a huge part of my career. Every single job that I had was in MVC.
Nice.
I also had to learn a little bit of COBOL back in the day.
Interesting.
Because, my first job was transitioning a system that was built in 1986 in the COBOL language into C# and MVC. So
that's cool.
It was interesting.
It's interesting. That's probably a better way to put it. So speaking of like the different projects you've been on, maybe you didn't work for Tesla and self-driving cars, but do you have any kind of standout projects that you're like, wow, that I really enjoyed working on, fill in the blank?
Yeah. Honestly, the automation work that I've done so far, even though it's just been for me, it's been really interesting to work with.
Yeah.
Being able to type something up, or you can type your code in if you want to. There's also a drag and drop option where they've got these little panels that say here's your if statement. You drop that in, and then you start dragging in all your different conditions, and you have to do some coding in the properties of it. But yeah, it's really interesting just being able to build it all up and go through the process in your head of saying, okay, this step, this step, this step, this step, and then hit the go button and just watch it take care of itself.
So you're automating these, like, what is it? Automating software deployments. You're automating software testing. Like, what you're talking about automation, but
yeah. So it's so what I was doing was testing out stuff. So creating accounts and then making changes to them.
Yeah.
So I start the automation, enter in a few parameters like account name, what environment it's going to be run in, and then a couple other things. But based on that, it would go and make the changes and create the account and get started on an order.
Okay.
It's just kind of fun to watch it go
Yeah.
and then see where it failed and then do my troubleshooting.
Cool.
And yeah, the troubleshooting is really the exciting part, is seeing where I messed up
Yeah.
and how I can fix it. So
well,
yeah, really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And automation, every single job that I've had has been trending towards automation. So at one point or another, they want us to automate as much of our work as possible, so that we can take on some more responsibilities and really try and get a feel for more of the company so that we can become as useful as we can.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So what is a day in your life like? I mean, let's just say you're working from home and you gotta. What's it like?
So whether I'm working from home or I'm working from the office, get in, my coffee, all that, and I start checking emails, making sure that all the servers are still up and that we didn't get any outages, no calls from IT SOC over the night. And I go into our ticketing system and I check that, make sure that any tickets that we have are on our calendar, which is something that we have to maintain ourselves. And it's meetings time. So we start out with stand-up, and then any stakeholder calls that we have to be on. So that means maintenance happens on our servers that has to be done by outside teams. So they have stakeholder calls. We have to get on, see what the maintenance is, make sure that we have resources allocated for bringing down the server, bringing it back up, and then testing it out to make sure that the change didn't impact the end user's ability to use the application.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of those, and some of them are overnights, but some of them aren't. It just kind of depends on what they're doing and what environment it's in. That is a big chunk of my morning, and then my afternoon is kind of just dealing with the tickets, updating the calendar, making sure that overnight maintenance, we have our resources allocated, making sure that the team knows what we're doing. Because my job right now is to basically maintain the calendar and make sure that our servers get the attention that they need when something happens. So just sending out emails, reaching out to people, making sure that they know what they need to do, making sure that other teams can get what they need from us. So yeah, it's a lot of
sounds like a lot of coordination.
Yeah, and it requires a certain amount of people skills, but as anyone who works with me currently will tell you, when I started the job, I didn't really have those. I've developed those pretty well over the past 2-3 years.
Cool.
And now I'm able to reach out to teams. And one thing that I would say as far as advice to people getting into it, it doesn't matter that you don't know everything. You just need to know how to find out.
Yeah.
So I don't know everything about my job. I don't know everything about, the various applications that my team manages, but I know who to reach out to get that information. I know what to look up to find the information that I need, and I know where to go to get it. So that's, as long as you can find information, you'll be fine.
It's more about actually solving the problems than knowing everything.
Exactly.
If you're able to solve the problems, it doesn't matter that you didn't know everything. You know, you didn't have the solution at the beginning, but you got there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about learning.
Right on. That's a good tip. If I, how do I want to ask this? So, I remember when you graduated from Ranken, in 2013, you had a healthy starting salary back then.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of salary expectations should a newcomer have? What's realistic out there? What salary advice would you provide to anyone, trying to set their expectations getting out the door?
Starting out now, I think probably 40 to 50.
Okay.
If you're going contract work, you're going to be looking at more because contractors get paid more because they don't provide health care.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there are pluses and minuses to being a contractor. Yeah, contract work will pay more than that. 40 to 50 is a pretty good starting salary, I think. You'll progress in that amount of money pretty quickly if you do a good job. And if you're not afraid to go away, like I did, I got out of St. Louis and kind of saw a bit of the country. If you're not afraid to travel, awesome. You'll be fine. You'll be able to find a really nicely paying job.
Yeah, St. Louis is known for having a low cost of living, therefore the salaries don't have to pay quite as much,
Right.
But if you get a healthy salary in St. Louis, then you don't have the high cost of living of everywhere else. So there's really the benefit of having a good salary in St. Louis versus a good salary in Silicon Valley, where you need $1 million a year just to survive,
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, and then I guess the last question I have for you is, and this is the last question for everyone, is, you went to Ranken, you graduated, got a good job, found a good career, and you've been doing this for quite a while now. Do you see yourself doing this for another 20, 30, 40 years and retiring in this industry? Or do you see yourself maybe down the road saying, you know what, I want to be a guitar player and go play guitar for a living? Or is there another career in your future at some point?
I don't see myself changing career paths until I have retirement money. Yeah, it's a good job. I enjoy doing it.
Cool.
If I have my druthers when I'm, old in my 60s, I don't know if that's old anymore, but when I'm retirement age, I'd like to do some stuff on the side. I'm into leather work right now, and I have an Etsy shop that, it's pretty easy to just bang up a couple things and then send them off and make some cash.
Yeah. So just a hobby that brings in a little money once you're comfortable and retired and that kind of stuff. But this is your
my career.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. So, when I think of your industry, I remember back in 2013, my memory of hearing your salary back then. Again, you got out of St. Louis. But your starting salary back then was jaw-dropping to me. And I hope you're comfortable with me sharing that. And so you're always the guy that I was. Now, if that was the record back then, almost 10 years ago, it has been shattered. So you're no longer that guy. And then just kind of staying in contact with you over the years has been really cool to kind of see your journey and your progression. And we went for a bike ride that a couple times, and that was cool. And you did like Pedal for the Cause, which I think was awesome. And yeah, now like you said,
I have no plans on doing an Ironman like you, but
Well,
Yeah.
that requires a special breed of insanity, you know. Wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it. Wouldn't recommend it. But just happy for you, man. Congrats on your success.
Appreciate it. And, look, Ranken was a great experience. I was very close to not doing it because I didn't want to do the technical college. I still wanted to pursue being an artist, but it just wasn't in the cards. The jobs that I was looking at were, all corporate, kind of soulless advertising kind of things. And Ranken really gave me an opportunity to still be creative in my field, but also make enough money to be comfortable and happy. And I make enough money now so I can be thrilled with my life outside of work, even on the days that I don't necessarily, we all have bad days at work.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. On those days, I just think, you know what, it's worth it. I've got a great life outside of this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, right on. I say it a little bit just like you, but a little bit differently. I say it, there's a lot of things in life that are really important, and having a stable income is just one small sliver of life. And having a career in this industry, you can kind of check that sector off and work hard and do well, and then not worry about that piece of life. You've got all the rest of life to worry about.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's plenty of other stuff you can be spending your time thinking about. Yeah, having that box checked is really comforting.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I'll go ahead and hit the stop recording now. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to the internet there.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.